Who are you? Hey, who are you? Yeah. Hey, 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 hey. Who are ya? Who are ya? Who are ya? Who's that behind the mask? Who are ya? Who are ya? Who are ya? Looking at me in the mirror, that's the kind of new face that I see. Even if I get closer, I'm not looking at anything quite like me. I used to be somebody, now I be a little different. If I play the game, sound the same, change my name, bring out my talent. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I can't see who I am anymore. Who are you? 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 Who's that behind the mask? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who's that behind the mask?
Today I'm going to be reading a passage from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, my favourite novel. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. Then a dog began to howl somewhere in a farmhouse far down the road, a long, agonised wailing as if from fear. The sound was taken up by another dog, and then another, and another, till borne on the wind, which now sighed softly through the pass, a wild howling began, which seemed to come from all over the country, as far as the imagination could grasp it, through the gloom of the night. The Great Gatsby by Scott F. Fitzgerald. I lived at West Egg, the less fashionable of the two, though this is a most superficial tag to express the bizarre and not a little sinister contrast between them. My house was at the very tip of the egg, only 50 yards from sand and squeezed between two huge places that rented for 12 or 15,000 a season. The one on my right was a colossal affair by any standard. It was a factual imitation of some Hotel de Ville in Normandy, with a tower on one side, spanking new under a thin beard of raw ivy and a marble swimming pool, and more than 40 acres of lawn and garden. It was Gatsby's mansion, or rather, as I didn't know Mr. Gatsby, it was a mansion inhabited by a gentleman of that name. My own house was an eyesore, but it was a small eyesore, and it had been overlooked, so I had a view of the water, a partial view of my neighbour's lawn, and the consoling proximity of millionaires, all for $80 a month.
Call me Ishmael. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no money in my purse, and nothing particular to interest me on shore, I thought I would sail about a little and see the watery part of the world. It is a way I have of driving off the spleen and regulating the circulation. Whenever I find myself growing grim about the mouth, whenever it's a damp, drizzly November in my soul, whenever I find myself involuntarily pausing between coffin warehouses and bringing up the rear of every funeral I meet, and especially whenever my hypos get such an upper hand of me that it requires a strong moral principle to prevent me from deliberately stepping into the street and methodically knocking people's hats off. Then I account it high time to get to sea as soon as I can.
Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large moustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences spying on the neighbours. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no finer boy anywhere.
Okay, so the book I'm going to read is Michael McMurdo's Twist of Gold. Ireland, Sean said. We came from Ireland. The ship we were on went on the rocks last night in the storm. We've been looking for our friends. You've not seen anyone else come this way, perhaps. In an instant, the smiles vanished, and the villagers began to back away from them. Ireland, you want the migrant ships? The lady said, the gun held up now in front of her. Sean nodded. Did you have the sickness on board? Some of them died, said Annie, because there wasn't much food, and the water was bad, terrible bad. I knew it, the lady said, backing away and taking the crowd with her. A plague ship, someone muttered. You're from a plague ship. You keep your distance, do you hear? Don't come any closer, not if you've a mind to go on living. And the lady's gun was up now, cocked and pointed at them. I don't understand. What's the matter with you, Sean asked, perplexed at the change of mood. Why are you all looking at us like that? Because you got the plague, son, that's why, said an angry voice from the back of the
Going on a bear hunt, we're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. Uh-oh, a river, a deep, cold river. We can't go over it, we can't go under it. Oh no, we've got to go through it. Splash, splosh, splash, splosh, splash, splosh, woo!
Recently, I watched a film called Escape from Pretoria, and I absolutely loved it, and now I've started to read the book.
Someone was punching me, but I was reluctant to take my eyes from the people below, and from the image of Atticus's lonely walk down the aisle. Miss Jean Louise? I looked around. They were standing, all round us, and in the balcony, and on the opposite wall. The negroes were getting to their feet. Reverend Sykes's voice was as distant as Judge Taylor's. Miss Jean Louise, stand up. Your father's passed.